Hello, good evening, welcome. I'm late. I'm late for a very important date. Didn't realize it's 1 minute past 8. It is Tuesday, so it's an extra episode tonight of Live Irish Myths. Good evening, everybody. I'm Anthony Murphy of Mythical Ireland. You're all very welcome along to this, our second installment of three of the story of the Voyage of Mael Dúin. We had the first part last night. I think we had a fair amount of re-raw August Rulia Bulia. We had a bit of fun and crack, and hopefully tonight's episode will continue in the same vein. So just to explain that we, for a long time now have been doing weekly episodes of Live Irish Myths instead of the daily episodes. The reason we're doing a second episode in a row is because for the next couple of weeks, as you all probably know from last night, we have something of a packed schedule, a little bit of a busy time ahead of us. Next Monday, we begin our Live Irish Myths in Conversation series with storyteller and author Eddie Lenihan, who's joining us on Zoom. That link will be provided on the social media, on the Facebook pages and Twitter, etc., in advance so that you can register for that. The following Monday, the 1st of February, we have Moncon McGann, presenter of the DNA Culture series and also author of the new book, 32 Words for Field. And by the way, I should also say Moncon has written for, I think it's the Irish Times, but he has written previously for the newspapers about the importance of Old Irish words and place names. Very much looking forward to having him as a guest. Hope you're all keeping safe and well. It may be, I'm just suggesting, it may be that part 3 of Mael Dúin will be tomorrow night. I understand that the conversation series will occupy the 2 Monday slots, but also the second Monday, the 1st of February, that week is the week of Imbolc, and I think it's very important. I think it's absolutely necessary. It's essential that we do an episode about Imbolc and its origins, that beautiful cross-quarter date that marks, officially anyway, the end of winter and the beginning of spring here in Ireland. So I hope you're looking forward to that. Lots to come on Live Irish Myths and Live Irish Myths in Conversation. And also, I have to resurrect, because I haven't done for a couple of weeks, Buchel Donna is Misha. I haven't done the book talk, but as I said last night, don't worry about that. There's plenty of books to talk about. On YouTube this evening, Archaeoastronomy Database was the first in the house. Says, hello, my friends, on with the voyage. Let's hope it's a bon voyage. John Main, who should know about ocean voyages because he's in Baltimore, which is what one could say is a very much a maritime village. In southern Cork, in the very southern coast of the island. And I once went to Cape Clear and took a boat from Baltimore, beautiful part of the world. Banachtion to Galer. Hope you're all doing well. All great, John. Hope you are likewise. Hi, Anthony, you set a high bar. Well, as I say, if we can at least equal the crack we had last night, it'll be good fun. Mark Rhodes Taylor says, Kate Mila Falcha. Good evening, everyone. I hope that everyone is well. All good. Likewise to you, Mark. Sandrine Brady. I always say Sandrine. It could be Sandrine, but it sounds better if I pronounce it in a sort of a faux French accent. Bonsoir, les amis. Hi, Anthony, and to the others. Surprised to arrive before Daisy and Mandy tonight. Had a tough day, so I'm looking forward to having some nice stories for the evening. Let's hope we can assuage or at least put to one side any badness that has happened to any of you during the day. Sue Prenter says, we are all back in the coracle, ready to be spooked by giant ants and flaming pigs. Anybody for roast bacon? Yes, indeed. Mandy McCurl is in the house. Hello, everyone. What a bonus. Joan McH says, good evening from Howth. Hello, Joan. We haven't seen you, in an episode or two. Always a delight to have you in the Mythical Ireland Library. The Full Irish GK says, Trinonawa, blessings to all, and also to you. And on Facebook, who have we got? Charlie Grover is the first of the commenters tonight. Hello, Charlie. Welcome along. Paula Snow Queen, hello again. Wave, always in with the waves, Paula. Nessa Jones says, hello, Falcha. Yvette Tillema says, hi, Anthony. Hello to her. Thank you. Sláinte. It's my great pleasure, as you know. Barb Jordan says, hi, Giagich. Mandy McCurl is also Did I just imagine that Mandy McCurl was on YouTube? Hey, Mandy, what's this story? Why are you watching on two devices? It's great. Your cat is watching on the other one. Marie Lendon is in the house, says, hello again, Anthony and Tua. Hello, Marie. Hope you're well. Nick Eska Casterton, who recently had a brush with COVID-19, has joined us. Nick, I hope that you are feeling much better after your recent illness. Good evening, Anthony. Looking forward to tonight's episode. Hello, Tua. Hope you're all keeping safe and well. And we wish the very same for you, Nick. Ralph Waldron says, pleasant surprise. Very wet all day in Áth League. Yes, indeed. August I drihid áha freshen. Tashiana fluch anocht. The weather hasn't been great here. Cloudy and raining. Robert Friend says, Fáilte Anthony and Tua. What a lovely name. Robert Friend. Very friendly. Hello again, Robert. Harriet Nwifra Sams says, oh, wonderful. Glad you think so, Harriet. Hopefully we can live up to the billing. Sandra Boothroyd says, good evening, Fáilte. Roberta Duffy says, hi, Anthony Giaglitch. Roberta. Debbie Boyle says, love in bulk. Hello, Debbie. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're well. And yes, indeed, we're looking forward to the celebration of in bulk. Ooh, do you know what? Debbie, your presence has just reminded me that a great, and I hope you don't mind me saying this in front of everyone, a great guest for the conversation series would be the artist Courtney Davis. So I'm going to ask Courtney if he would maybe participate. Brilliant. Roberta Duffy says, hi all, Giaglitch. Leon Leak says, as they say in London, hello all. Fáilte. Janet Moran says, oh, so wonderful. Number 2 of Mythflix Live this week. So looking forward to it. I know you are absolutely spoiled, the whole lot of you. Anne McCallum says, hello, Anthony and the mighty Tua and Antone, all set for more adventures in this wondrous tale. Love the verses. I think Joyce must have had rare fun translating these poetic segments. Yes, and as he says himself, he liked to inject a little bit of humour in there, which is no harm either. Hello, Tua, and he's honest about it. It's not necessarily a 100% accurate translation. Hello, Tua, but he captures the mood of it. I so enjoyed yesterday's episode, says Desiree. On my drive home from visiting my family in Florida, only regret was I couldn't message with all you guys while driving. Thanks to everyone for your well wishes. I did make it home safely. Brilliant stuff, Desiree. Great to see you. Marlon O'Hirmack says, Giariv, Nadini Golera for them down. Marlon, always a pleasure. Margaret Kiernan says, evening, Anthony and friends. Fáilte. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hi, Burr. Janet Moran is also saying hi, Burr. Doris O'Hara says, hi, all. Rich. Mark Munoz says, hello, all from a cold and rainy New Mexico. Does it do rain in New Mexico? Wow. Does lots of it here in Ireland. But welcome. Ali Athy Thompson says, good evening, Anthony. I hope you're keeping well. Yes, indeed. And likewise, I hope you're in good form. Roberto Rebuero Diaz says, buenas noites to everyone. Hello, Roberto. Fáilte. Fergal McCourt says, need a boat, Anthony. We need a fairly substantial vessel to carry all of the Tua, it must be said. Good complaint indeed. Brendan Byrne says, what a bonus. Didn't know this was on till the phone dinged. I did say that, yeah, I didn't really. I only announced it this morning on the page, on the YouTube and the Facebook pages. I was thinking about it last night after last night's episode. I said, how are we going to do this? Because if we don't do the episodes 2 and 3 this week, the thing is that it'll be possibly 3 weeks before we get round to doing episode 2, by which time all of you will have forgotten the contents of episode 1. So I said, look, we'll try and fit them in. Robin Rickman says, hello, Sláinte, Robin. Rob Best in Boston is in the house, says, blessings, Anthony, agus banachthi orv, banachthi ort fame. Marlene says, is bralum of Avancon Magan, is Udar Gohintak A. He's brilliant. He is indeed. Nuala Doyle says, hi, Anthony. From Nuala. Yes, indeed, Nuala. You're very welcome along. Much better now. Thanks, Anthony, says Nick Casterton. Nick, it's brilliant that you're in good form. Paula Snow Queen says, I watch on 2 devices too. So, Anthony, on big screen, YouTube, and I can talk on the FB by phone. That makes perfect sense. Yes, indeed. No reason to explain or apologize for that. Brady Tussey says, hello, Anthony. Exciting day today. Family business got the thumbs up to open again after COVID shutdowns. I'm delighted to hear that, Brady, and the very best of luck with it. Barbara Cohn is in the house. Barbara, I can't remember how to pronounce your surname. But Barbara and I met in Ireland a few years back on a tour, and we've been friends ever since. Barbara shares my questionable sense of humor. Barbara, it's great to see you. Finally made it here. Don't tell anyone I'm at work. My lips are sealed. Nobody knows. Charlene McLean Cosby says, afternoon. Hello, Fáilte. Debbie Boyle says, yes, Courtney would be amazing. Hope, yes, I must reach out to him and say, hey, what's the chances? Laura Puente says, hello, good afternoon from Chicago. Glad to be going you all. Well, we're glad that you're joining us, Laura. It's good to see you. Christy Goodlett says, great morning to her from hot, humid, sunny, central Queensland. We're all jealous. Send a little bit of that sunshine this way. Mind you, your year is on the wane and ours is starting to grow. So we'll get to the stage where after the equinox, we'll be saying our days are longer than yours. And then who'll be jealous? I'm only joking. Christy, great to see you. Good morning. Peter Kierans says, evening, sir. Evening, Sir Peter. How are you? Arise, Sir Peter. Kimberly Fields Sipola says, hello to all from another sunny day in Washington. By the way, Peter, give a little bit of a plug. Peter is one of the bosses at the printing company where the Mythical Ireland calendar was printed. Anglo Printers, which is my local printer here in Drogheda. And I should say that I actually did a recce today and found that I have more calendars left than I thought I did. I have at least a couple of dozen. So I'm just going to paste that in. I'm going to be cheeky, a little bit of advertising. No advertising allowed on this page, except for by the boss man. And I'm going to paste that in as a link in case you haven't bought your calendar. Remember, it's still January. You still have time to get it up on the wall. Kimberly Fields Sipola says, hello to all from another sunny day in Washington. Glad to hear the sun is shining. Yvette says, I need a computer, only iPad. Often messes up the video if I type a message. Oh yeah, that can't be good because the messaging is kind of a real important part of the whole thing, isn't it? Veronica Casey says, hello there, Giagich Veronica. Evie Hanlon is in northern Queensland in Australia. There's a bit of rain here at the moment too, but I'd hazard a guess it's a bit warmer than you. Yes, we reached a spiffing 10 degrees Celsius here in Ireland today, but we are told that from Thursday, another cold spell is going to blast in from the north, so we could be seeing ice and frost and maybe a bit of snow. Veronica says, my mammy is finally home from hospital and doing well. That's brilliant news, Veronica. Delighted to hear it. And the very best wishes to her. Lorraine Marr, from all of us, make sure you tell her that the Mythflix Tua told her that we're delighted to hear that. Lorraine Marr Humor says, hooray, part 2 of Storyline. Hello from the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains on a sunny day at Lake Monticello in Central Virginia. Hello, Lorraine. Welcome along. Tom King. Oh, this is a treat. Evening, Anthony and the Friendly Two. I hope all in good form. All good so far, Tom. I wonder, are you forging tonight? Bethany Cutler says hello to and best to all, and the very best back to you. Paula Snow Queen is inquiring of Tom, how's she burning? In Ireland, there's a phrase that we often use, which is, how's she cutting? Which basically means, how are things with you? It's very funny. And sometimes the answer is up the middle and down the sides. A little bit like, some sort of agricultural machinery. Bethany is saying hello to Tom. Desiree, not driving a car, is now able to text and message everyone during the episode, which is brilliant. Okay. Veronica says, we're watching together, and she says, thank you. Brilliant. Delighted. Great stuff. Well, you might tell us her name, her first name, even, so that we can greet her personally. Erica Bows in the house on YouTube. Hello, Erica. It's great to see you. Christy Goodlett is also on YouTube. Loads of people on both, giving us the impression that there are more people here than there really are. But I see there are some real diehards. Roberta Duffy says, talking about Imbolc, I signed up for the St. Bridget's Festival, Vancouver. I believe Anthony is talking at it. Yes, indeed I am. I think that's the 2nd of February. Have a link to it. If it's okay with Anthony, I can post the info. Absolutely. Yes, by all means, please post the link. There are several of us who will be talking, but I'll be talking about my own interesting interactions with Bridget, Saint and Goddess, and I hope you enjoy that. I should probably mention that's the comments for the moment, which is great because we can get off with the episode. I should mention, I'm going to repeat some of the announcements from last night. My gracious thanks to user J Plenio at Pixabay. Pixabay is a website where basically lots of users provide photographs and images that can be used for free in graphics and publications, etc., which is a brilliant website. And I do my best to acknowledge them, and sometimes I even tip them by sending them a few quid. So J Plenio is the name. J Plenio over at pixabay.com. So I'll give him or her a bit of a plug. I'm not sure about the gender of the artist in question. I should also re-mention the wonderful auction by Teresina Fitzpatrick of her beautiful Newgrange painting. Last night during the live stream, we learned from Teresina that she had a bid. The minimum bid was €250. All of the proceeds of the sale of the painting will be given to the GoFundMe campaign, which is trying to organize funds to repatriate the remains of our good friend and Mythflix viewer and longtime Mythical Ireland follower, Kelly Edmiston. So I'll just paste a link to the Bring Kelly Home GoFundMe page. And perhaps if you haven't made a donation, perhaps even if you had a $5 or a $10, anything at all, I'm sure would be greatly appreciated. Her friends are basically trying to repatriate her remains from Paisley in Scotland, where she tragically died 2 Tuesdays ago, this day, fortnight ago, in an accident at her home. And they're trying to bring her remains home to New Orleans, but also to give her a fitting send-off and a nice burial. And I think it's just a lovely thing to do. Thank you very much, Teresina, for your lovely gesture. Really fantastic. I think I've already mentioned next Monday's Live Irish Myths in Conversation. The plan is to talk to Eddie Lenihan. That will be publicised a couple of days in advance. Just keep an eye on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page and the Mythical Ireland community page on Facebook, where I will be pasting a link to where you register for the Zoom talk. It will require you all to have Zoom. As I said last night, the talk with Eddie and the one on the following Monday, the 1st of February, with Moncon McGann will not be live streamed as usual on Facebook and YouTube. Rather, they will be Zoom only, but the video will be recorded for later upload to Facebook and YouTube. Did I mention the calendar? I still have calendars, and lots of you sharing pictures of your calendars hanging on the walls, which is greatly heartening that the photography is being seen in different parts of the world. Speaking of which, I should just briefly mention that you can, separately to all of that, you can purchase my photography as high quality prints and mounted prints. This is one that is going to be packaged up to be sent to, I think it's the United States, to a buyer tomorrow. And this is an 18 by 12 or a 45 if you're in centimeters, which in Ireland we're supposed to be, but I'm still in miles and inches and gallons. This is the Dog Does Mound. I know there's a cellophane on it, so there's a lot of reflection. The Dog Does Mound, Mound B, and Sheed and Broga, Newgrange up on the ridge with this twilight mist. So perhaps that's something you may want to have a look at on the website. On mythicalireland.com. I don't trust that. I'm going to put the owl in front of it. Mr. Owl, you can guard that. Cailleach Íche, by the way. There you go. The old Irish word or name for an owl is Cailleach Íche, the cailleach of the night. And I should just share very briefly, shameful self-promotion. I do apologize. The link to where you can have a look at the photography and perhaps consider buying a print or a mounted print. That's the announcements done with. Let me see if I missed anyone. I don't think I did. Robin Rickman says, oh, my husband just brought me a dram of Jameson Black Barrel. This will be a great show. I'm jealous. I don't have my own dram. Christy says, I'll have to reorder one for myself. Have both of mine as Christmas gifts. Well, I'm not saying no. Janet says she just noticed that Frosty and Santa have moved in. It's that time of year. The Christmas decorations are gone. What can I say? But we will try to continue to bring light during these somewhat darkened times. So last night we had reached chapter 12, The Palace of the Little Cat, and I had read half of that chapter. So I think I'll reread the beginning of it just so that we can sort of recap where we were in the story. And I just want to take a brief note. This is episode 136. Imagine 136. And what are we on? We are on 20 minutes. Okay, good. So that the YouTubers who are watching afterwards can skip all the introductions. Karen Faye O'Loughlin says, hi from sunny Boulder. Good afternoon to you, Karen. You're very welcome along. This is called The Palace of the Little Cat. After rowing for a long time, their store of apples failed them, and they'd nothing to eat or drink. By the way, did anybody ever think that, several times in the story, they've been journeying for so long that they get very hungry, that, with the onset of hunger, one can hallucinate. We got into talking about all sorts of things last night. Psilocybin tea was one of them. Perhaps they didn't need it. Perhaps the mere lack of food had sent them into a frenzied state of hallucinations, so that they suffered sorely under a hot sun, and their mouths and nostrils were filled with the briny smell of the sea. At last they came in sight of land, a little island with a large palace on it. Around the palace was a wall, white all over, without stain or flaw, as if it had been built of burnt lime, or carved out of one unbroken rock of chalk. And where it looked towards the sea, it was so lofty that it seemed almost to reach the clouds. Can I just ask, by the way, anybody actually got this book, Ancient Celtic Romances by P.W. Joyce? It's a good one. The gate of this outer wall was open, and a number of fine houses, all snowy white, were ranged round on the inside, enclosing a level court in the middle, on which all the houses opened. Mael Dúin and his people entered the largest of them. By the way, I was watching a replay last night when I was just updating the YouTube description. And I realized at one stage I had misspelt the Irish of Mael Dúin. I said it was M-A-I-L-D-U fada I-N. It is M-A-E-L-D-U fada I-N. Mael Dúin and his people entered the largest of them and walked through several rooms without meeting anyone. I would say that sounds a little bit like Tugal Brunja da Durga, but the destruction of the Durga's hostel. But every room they were in that was entered, there was bizarre numbers of people in them with strange numbers of eyes in their head and all of that. But on reaching the principal apartment, they saw in it a small cat playing among a number of low, square marble pillars which stood ranged in a row. And his play was leaping continually from the top of one pillar to the top of another. Alwyn Roy Badziak has joined us. Trinonawa, Falche. When the men entered the room, the cat looked at them for a moment, but returned to his play anon and took no further notice of them. That's where we finished last night. Looking now to the room itself, they saw 3 rows of precious jewels ranged round the wall from one door jamb to the other. The first was a row of brooches of gold and silver with their pins fixed in the wall and their heads outwards. The second, a row of torques of gold and silver. And the third, a row of great swords. Sounds a little bit like a visit to the National Museum of Ireland, with hilts of gold and silver. Round the room were arranged a number of couches, all pure white and richly ornamented. Abundant food of various kinds was spread on tables, among which they observed a boiled ox and a roast hog. Paula, the pigs are in again. Anybody for smoky bacon? And there were many large drinking horns full of good, intoxicating ale. So again, we have the intoxicants, but not in the form of psilocybin, this time just mere alcohol. Teresina is in the house. We gave you a good mention, Teresina. Keep us posted about your auction, please. Is it for us that this food has been prepared? Said Mael Dúin to the cat. Yes, Mael Dúin is talking to a cat. Several weeks at sea, deprived of food and imbibing psilocybin tea, has left him in such a state as to feel that it is quite normal to speak to a feline. The cat, on hearing the question, ceased from playing and looked at him, but he recommenced his play immediately. Paula Snow Queen says, I do that all the time without mushroom tea. I do that to the dogs. You talk to the dogs and they do this. You know the way the dog tilts the head? It's like, ooh, ooh. I heard my name, but I don't understand anything else that you said to me. I didn't hear the word food. I didn't hear the word walk. In our house, you can't mention words like chicken, sausage, beef, steak, anything like that. They instantly recognize their own names and a certain limited vocabulary of words for meat. In fact, we have taken in this house to describing scraps as marchol, agus shikeen, agus steig. Steig sounding too much like steak and not fooling the dogs quite much. Teresina says, still at €250. Any advances? Yeah. Says you will take more. We'll get Kelly home. Whereupon Mael Dúin told his people that the dinner was meant for them. And they all sat down and ate and drank till they were satisfied, after which they rested and slept on the couches. What else do you do at the National Museum of Ireland except for admire the torques and the brooches and the swords, and then have a slap-up meal and go to sleep on the sofas? When they awoke, they poured what was left of the ale into one vessel, and they gathered the remnants of the food to bring them away. Yes, Desiree, you're absolutely right. What a lovely thing that Teresina is doing. It does. It almost brings tears to the eyes in a joyful kind of way. When they awoke, they poured what was left of the... Sorry, I said that already. As they were about to go, Mael Dúin's eldest foster brother asked him, shall I bring one of those large torques away with me? No, that would be pilfery. That would be theft. By no means, said Mael Dúin. Pilfery? Pilferage? Pilfering? Can't remember. By no means, said Mael Dúin. It is well that we have got food and rest. Bring nothing away, for it is certain that this house is not left without someone to guard it. Good on you, Roberta. The young man, however, disregarding Mael Dúin's advice, took down one of the torques and brought it away. But the cat followed him and overtook him in the middle of the court, and springing on him like a blazing fiery arrow, he went through his body and reduced it in a moment to a heap of ashes. It's the vampire cat. He then returned to the room and, leaping up on one of the pillars, sat upon it. Mael Dúin turned back, bringing the torque with him, and, approaching the cat, spoke some soothing words, after which he put the torque back to the place from which it had been taken. Having done this, he collected the ashes of his foster brother and, bringing them to the shore, cast them into the sea. They all then went on board the curragh and continued their voyage, grieving for their lost companion, but thanking God for his many mercies to them. Chapter 13. An Island That Dyed Black and White, D-Y-E-D. On the morning of the third day, they came to another island. It seems like this story has been going on for weeks, and apparently only 2 days have passed. They came to another island which was divided into two parts by a wall of brass running across the middle. They saw two great flocks of sheep, one on each side of the wall, and all those at one side were black, while all those on the other side were white. A very large man was employed in dividing and arranging the sheep, and he often took up a sheep and threw it with much ease over the wall from one side to the other. When he threw over a white sheep among the black ones, it became black immediately. And in like manner, when he threw a black sheep over, it was instantly changed to white. The travellers were very much alarmed on witnessing these doings, and Mael Dúin said, "It is very well that we know so far. Let us now throw something on shore to see whether it will also change colour. If it does, we shall avoid the island." Desiree, sheep chucking, lol. So they took a branch with black coloured bark and threw it towards the white sheep, and no sooner did it touch the ground than it became white. They then threw a white coloured branch on the side of the black sheep, and in a moment it turned black. "It is very lucky for us," said Mael Dúin, "that we did not land on the island, for doubtless our colour would have changed like the colour of the branches." So they put about with much fear and sailed away. Chapter 14 is called The Island of the Burning River. Just at this point, I should perhaps inquire as to whether somebody would be good enough to share the live stream onto the Mythical Ireland community page. On the third day, they came in view, pardon me, they came in view, a voice crack. On the third day, they came in view of a large, broad island. I'll do my Christopher Lee impression. On which they saw a herd of gracefully shaped swine. Here we go, it's the pigs again, thanks to Zire. And they killed one small porkling for food. Towards the centre rose a high mountain, Mount Doom. There you go. Kevin says, shared on Twitter. Thank you, Kevin Riley. Cade Mila Falche. Great to have you in the house. And JT, who's in the house on YouTube, says, wicked. And Office Care 36, the Woodsies in Monster Voice. Thanks for the good thoughts. We'll keep in touch. I mean, I don't think there isn't much anymore. Working away a lot. Hope all are well. Sorry to hear that your work is keeping you away from live Irish myths, but at the same time, it's a very good complaint to be working, isn't it, I suppose? So you have to look at the positives. Pardon me. A little bit throaty tonight. Towards the centre rose a high mountain, which they resolved to ascend in order to view the island. And Germain and Duran Leckard were chosen for this task. Brendan says I sound more like Darth Vader. When they had advanced some distance towards the mountain, they came to a broad, shallow river. I am your father. And sitting down on the bank to rest, Germain dipped the point of his lance into the water, which instantly burned off the top, as if the lance had been thrust into a furnace. Tom King, what do you think of that? So they went no farther. On the opposite side of the river, they saw a herd of animals, like great hornless oxen, all lying down. Lying all down, were they, says Yoda, and a man of gigantic size near them. And Germain began to strike his spear against his shield in order to rouse the cattle. Why are you frightening the poor young calves in that manner? Demanded the big shepherd in a tremendous voice. Germain, or is it Germain? Germain or Germain? Germain. I wonder how that is rendered in Irish. It's an unusual one. Germane. Germain, astonished to find that such large animals were nothing more than calves, instead of answering the question, asked the big man, where the mothers of those calves were. Gollum could be next. Gollum. My precious. My precious. Never mind. Sorry. The giddiness continues. They are on the side of yonder mountain, he replied. Germain and Duran waited to hear no more, but returning to their companions, told them all they had seen and heard, after which the crew embarked and left the island. I'm seeing a common theme here. Arrive at an island, see some marvellous creatures and ridiculously oversized animals, and then depart quickly. But usually not before eating and drinking first, and sometimes sleeping on the couches of the National Museum. Chapter 15 is called The Miller of Hell. Brandon Ivorku is in the house. Yay, I made it to a live stream. Usually have to catch up the next day. Great to be here. It's a pleasure to have you along, Brenda. Welcome. I don't think I'm missing anybody on YouTube. Lots of conversation going on, which is brilliant. The next island they came to, which was not far off from the last, had a large mill on it. And near the door stood the miller, a huge-bodied, strong, burly man. You'll have no voice, says Teresina, then I'll have to act it out. I'll have to do a game of charades. They saw numberless crowds of men and horses laden with corn coming towards the mill. And when their corn was ground, they went away towards the west. Great herds of all kinds of cattle covered the plain as far as the eye could reach, and among them many wagons laden with every kind of wealth that is produced on the ridge of the world. All these the miller put into the mouth of his mill to be ground, and all, as they came forth, went westwards. Anne Scott Doherty says, I didn't know we were meeting today. Yippee. Yes, indeed. Irish Technical Thinker has joined us on YouTube. It says, apologies for my lateness. No Brown Zone. I just got here returning from my mother's from dinner. Sounds very pleasant. Welcome. Joan says, I wonder if these islands are those off the Mayo coast. I understand there's one island for every day of the year, 365. The islands of Clew Bay in County Mayo, overlooked by Crochan Igla, or as we might better know it today, Croagh Patrick. Yes, very good thinking that there's a lot of islands off the west coast compared to the east coast. Mael Dúin and his people now spoke to the miller and asked him the name of the mill and the meaning of all they had seen on the island. And he, turning quickly towards them, replied in a few words, this mill is called the Mill of Inver Tre Kenand, and I am the miller of hell. Inver is an estuary. Tre, T-R-E, is possibly an anglicization of T-R-I, thought a tree, meaning three. Kenand, K-E-N-A-N-D. Not quite sure. Perhaps one of the Gaelgors could enlighten us as to the possibilities. And I am the miller of hell. All the corn and all the riches of the world that men are dissatisfied with, or which they complain of in any way, are sent here to be ground. And also every precious article and every kind of wealth which men try to conceal from God. All these I grind in the mill of Inver Tre Kenand and send them afterwards away to the west. Yes. The new power is rising. Sorry. We have to banish Saruman from the house. He spoke no more, but turned round and busied himself again with his mill. And the voyagers, with much wonder and awe in their hearts, went to their curragh and sailed away. And there's a note here by Joyce, P.W. Joyce. The incident of the big miller occurs in the Voyage of the Sons of O'Corra, as well as in the Voyage of Mael Dúin. The two accounts are somewhat different, and I have combined both here. Yoda next. Chapter 16. The Isle of Weeping. Weeping, the isle does be. After leaving this, they had not been long sailing when they discovered another large island with a great multitude of people on it. What a surprise. The next chapter features another island. They were all black, both skin and clothes, with black headdresses also. And they kept walking about, sighing and weeping and wringing their hands, without the least pause or rest. Teresa is saying hello from Oregon again. We love you here. Well, it's the feeling's mutual. I love all the Oregonians. I'm not sure if that is the correct term for a collection of people from Oregon, but you're always very welcome in this library. I can tell you that for nothing. Paula Snow Queen says Monty Python. is a friend, you know. Willie's Woderick. It fell to the lot of Mael Dúin's second foster brother to go and examine the island. By God, after what happened to the first one, Oregonisms. It is correct. Or what did I say? I can't remember now. Is it Oregonians? Impressive. By the way, a collection of people from Drogheda is apparently known as, a gathering of Droghedians. And when he went among the people, he also grew sorrowful and fell to weeping and wringing his hands with the others. 2 of the crew were sent to bring him back, but they were unable to find him among the mourners. And what was worse, in a little time they joined the crowd and began to weep and lament like all the rest. Mael Dúin then chose 4 men to go and bring back the others by force, and he put arms in their hands and gave them these directions. When you land on the island, fold your mantles round your faces so as to cover your mouths and noses, that you may not breathe the air of the country, and look neither to the right nor to the left, neither at the earth nor at the sky, but fix your eyes on your own men till you have laid hands on them. They did exactly what they were told, and having come up with their 2 companions, namely those who had been sent after Mael Dúin's foster brother, they seized them and brought them back by force. Paula, Belfastrians, a crowd from Belfast, or a mad drunken mob, depending on where they end up. I think that's true of anybody from most parts of the island of Ireland, in fairness. Without disparaging my country, I was going to say countrymen and countrywomen. They did exactly as they were, blah, 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 blah. But the other they could not find. When these 2 were asked what they had seen on the island and why they began to weep, their only reply was, "We cannot tell. We only know that we did what we saw the others doing." Some sort of a mass hysteria. Sounds like a hysterical reaction. Mariana Dunn is also in the house. Good evening to you, or good afternoon. Great to see you. Thanks, Brendan. And after this, the voyagers sailed away from the island, leaving Mael Dúin's second foster brother behind. Chapter XVII. What's that? 17. Chapter 17. I'm a bit rusty on my Roman numerals. And this is called the Isle of the 4 Precious Walls. The next was a high island divided into 4 parts by 4 walls meeting in the centre. The first was a wall of gold, the second a wall of silver, the third a wall of copper, and the fourth a wall of crystal. In the first of the 4 divisions were kings, in the second queens, in the third youths, and in the fourth young maidens. When the voyagers landed, one of the maidens came to meet them, and, leading them forward to a house, gave them food. This food, which she dealt out to them from a small vessel, looked like cheese, and whatever taste pleased each person best, that was the taste he found on it. Wow. Taco cheese. Spicy cheese. Strawberry-flavoured cheese. And after they had eaten till they were satisfied, they slept in a sweet sleep, as if gently intoxicated. I think they were more than gently intoxicated by the sounds of this story, for 3 days and 3 nights. When they awoke on the 3rd day, they found themselves in their curragh on the open sea, and there was no appearance in any direction, either of the maiden or of the island. And thus ends that chapter. And we have lacked tonight any of the poetic refrains, which were such a delectable part of last night's episode. Let me just skip forward and see if there are any. None for ages. Oh, I hope all the funny poems aren't finished. None tonight, unfortunately. There you go. Chapter 18, the palace of the Crystal Bridge. They came now to a small island with a palace on it, having a copper chain in front hung all over with a number of little silver bells. Straight before the door there was a fountain spanned by a bridge of crystal which led to the palace. Wow, Crystal Palace. Never mind. They walked towards the bridge, meaning to cross it, but every time they stepped on it, they fell backwards, flat on the ground. So that would be Mac Cheese. Valerie Gallagher is in the house. Hello, Valerie. Welcome along. After some time, they saw a very beautiful young woman coming out of the palace with a pail in her hand. And she lifted a crystal slab from the bridge, and, having filled her vessel from the fountain, she went back into the palace. This woman has been sent to keep house for Mael Dúin, said Germain. Mael Dúin indeed, said she as she shut the door after her. After this, they began to shake the copper chain, and the tinkling of the silver bells was so soft and melodious that the voyagers gradually, you can guess the next bit, can't you, fell into a gentle, tranquil sleep and slept so till next morning. It's like Voyage, sea monsters when you're hungry, eat and sleep. There's a definite rhythm to this. And when they're really, really hungry, they see snakes turning inside out and all sort of contortions, and flaming pigs and cats that turn into arrows. When they awoke, they saw the same young woman coming forth from the palace with the pail in her hand, and she lifted the crystal slab as before, filled her vessel, and returned into the palace. Morwena Blogs has joined us. Hello, Morwena. Welcome. This woman has certainly been sent to keep house for Mael Dúin, said Germain. Wonderful are the powers of Mael Dúin, said she, as she shut the door of the court behind her. They stayed in this place for 3 days and 3 nights, and each morning the maiden came forth in the same manner and filled her pail. On the 4th day she came towards them, splendidly and beautifully dressed, with her bright yellow hair bound by a circlet of gold, and wearing silver-work shoes on her small white feet. Paula, you're so funny. Paula says that they definitely sound like teenagers. She had a white mantle over her shoulders, which was fastened in front by a silver brooch studded with gold. And under all, next her soft snow-white skin, was a garment of fine white silk. My love to you, Mael Dúin, and to your companions, she said, and she mentioned them all one after another, calling each by his own proper name. My love to you, said she. We knew well that you were coming to our island, for your arrival has been long foretold to us. And what lady in another... Here's another test for you now. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes on this one. What other lady greeting an arrival of foreigners to a certain island was known to say something very much similar or almost identical to that? We knew well that you were coming, for your arrival has been long foretold to us. Come on, I'll give you... I'm not going to read on until some of you try to answer it. So yesterday we had Mael Dúin being taunted about not knowing who his parents were, and I asked you what other story from Irish myth was there a similar passage in which a youth was being taunted. So the quote was, we knew well that you were coming to our island, for your arrival has been long foretold to us. What other lady of Irish mythology, and if you want for a bonus point, tell us what episode, or what, not episode as in Live Irish Myths, what story that was in. Let me see if there are any answers. Joan says Tiernan Og. No, it's a good guess, but it's not right. Brendan says, oh no, the dunce hat is on the way. It was one of those stories you told us, Anthony. Yes, Paula, it was. Correct. That doesn't bring us any closer to the answer. No, there's no dunce hats. I just want to see if anybody knows it. Yes, Anne McCallum is right. Eru. Yes. In what story? Anne, what was the episode? What was going on in what story did Eru tell an arriving band of men, it has to be said, that, and it's almost an identical quote, your arrival has long been foretold to us. Hi Brazil, says Deirdre McCarthy. The island, the Milesians, says Anne McCallum, and Anne gets the bonus point. Colleen Mah, August, take a place at the top of the class. Thanks for saving your army, says Brendan. Yes, so in Laura Gawala, when the Milesians arrive in Ireland, Amergin negotiates with the guardian or patron or tutelary goddesses, the triune of goddesses, Bamba, Fola, and Eru. And he meets Eru at, or Era, if you want, at Ishnach. And when he arrives, she says, your arrival has long been foretold by the soothsayers. There you go. Well done, Anne McCallum. Top of the class. All the rest of you, dunce hats for you. Teresina has just posted Eru now. And I'm thinking, did she just wait till Anne said it to post it? No, I'm sure you got it right, Teresina. Well done. JT had guessed Fomorians. You were close because it was from Laura Gawala. And Yvette Tillema said, I knew Amergin. Brilliant. Desiree says, I like this daily question/quiz. Now, there's an idea for an episode. Hang on a second. I know I'm getting completely sidetracked here. There's an idea. We could have a quiz. I could set maybe 20 or 30 questions and see, and you could all jot down your answers and perhaps message them to me or email them to me. And the next night we could do the corrections or the see who won. Yes, the difficulty with that is, and I'm not saying that any of you would ever dream of cheating. The difficulty is you all have Google on your side, but we'd find a way of doing it. What did I say? Irish mythology quiz. Yes, I like that idea. Thank you, Desiree. On to me on that. Travel Tips Ireland has suggested the famous story, The Sons of Sally Noggin. Kevin Riley wants to know, on what other platform are people commenting? It's the Mythical Ireland Facebook page, which is on facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. That is where the rest of the viewers are. PDF of questions, says Morwena. We'd figure out a way of doing it. No, look, don't mind that whole idea of Google and cheating. It would be just for fun, but I would offer a prize. Maybe a calendar. Oh, I've lost my place now. I apologize. Here we go. We knew well that you were coming to our island, for your arrival has long been foretold to us. And I think this is going to drag on a bit, this episode, because I can't pay attention and concentrate on the reading. It's hard to remember, Anthony, when you keep telling everyone to light a fire and have a dram or two or three. Yes, indeed. I thought that you were all swatting in between episodes, watching reruns of the old ones, Brendan. That's what I thought. Fat chances you. Then she led them to a large house standing by the sea, and she caused the curragh to be drawn high up on the beach. Yes, Desiree says, we might remember the stories better if we didn't have so many drams, lol. Sequin says, oh no, this is the first live I've managed to catch alive, and it's just about to end. Hi, anyway, from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Good evening, good morning, Sequin. You're very welcome along. It's not really beginning to end. It's not really ending. We're about halfway through, but you're very welcome to the live stream. It's great to have you on board. They found in the house a number of couches. Here we go again. One of which was intended for Mael Dúin alone, and each of the others for 3 of his people. The woman then gave them from one vessel food which was like cheese, first of all ministering to Mael Dúin, and then giving a triple share to every 3 of his companions. And whatever taste each man wished for, that was the taste he found on it. Salted pork. What movie is that from? and the tongue is sort of hanging out in the mouth-watering thought of salted pork. She then lifted the crystal slab at the bridge, filled her pail, and dealt out drink to them. And she knew exactly how much to give, both of food and of drink, so that each had enough and no more, and that they could remember previous episodes of Live Irish Myths without being drunk. This woman would make a fit wife for Mael Dúin, said his people. But while they spoke, she went from them with her pail in her hand. When she was gone, we could do it in Zoom, says Teresina. Yes, in fact, I have participated in several quiz nights on Zoom. Yeah. Desiree says this story has a very Alice in Wonderland feel to it. Yes, it does. Yes, indeed, it does. Yes, indeed. I haven't had a drop, by the way. So let's think about that. Let's think about planning the Live Irish Myths quiz. Wouldn't that be great fun? I'll be the quiz master, of course. No point in putting me in amongst the answerers, because I'll probably know. That sounds very boastful, doesn't it? Sounds like I think I know all the answers. Yeah, pick out some obscure stuff, catch me out. This woman would make a fit wife for Mael Dúin, but while they spoke, she went from them with her pail in her hand. When she was gone, Mael Dúin's companions said to him, "Shall we ask this maiden to become thy wife?" He answered, "What advantage will it be to you to ask her?" She came next morning, and they said to her, "Why dost thou not stay here with us?" Very archaic English. "Will you make friendship?" It says, "wilt thou." I'll try and change it. "Will you make friendship with Mael Dúin, and will you take him for your husband?" She replied that she and all those that lived on the island were forbidden to marry with the sons of men, and she told them that she could not disobey, as she knew not what sin or transgression was. Interesting. No Catholic churches on this island. She then went from them to her house, and on the next morning when she returned, and after she had ministered to them as usual, till they were satisfied with food and drink, and were become cheerful, she spoke the same words to her. "Tomorrow," she replied, "you will get an answer to your question." And so saying, she walked towards her house, and they went to sleep on their couches. When they awoke next morning, they found themselves lying in their curragh on the sea, beside a great high rock. And when they looked about, they saw neither the woman nor the palace of the Crystal Bridge, nor any trace of the island where they had been sojourning. Yes, I'm reminded by Karen in Colorado that it's 2 p.m. there in the afternoon there. Not exactly a suitable time to be downing drams. This is a very succinct point. Perhaps when we do the quiz, we'll have to do it late in the Irish night, so a little bit more towards the evening time for our wonderful friends in the USA. Chapter 19 is called The Isle of Speaking Birds. And no, this is not Big Bird from Sesame Street. One night, soon after leaving this, they heard in the distance towards the northeast, pardon me while I laugh at my own stupid joke, a confused murmur of voices, as if from a great number of persons singing psalms. Leon makes a good point that it's always evening somewhere. Yes, good excuse to down a few drams. They followed the direction of the sound in order to learn from what it proceeded, and at noon the next day they came in view of an island, very hilly and lofty. It was full of birds, some black, some brown, and some speckled, who were all shouting, speaking with human voices. And it was from them that the great clamour came. Desiree says, speaking of jokes, you forgot that part of the episode today, but I hope that I'm making up for it with the interjections of humour. And that is the short chapter of chapter 19, The Isle of Speaking Birds. That is it. Chapter 20, The Aged Hermit and the Human Souls. At a little distance from this, they found another small island with many trees on it. Don't tell me. And food and drink and couches. Some standing singly and some in clusters, on which were perched great numbers of birds. They also saw an aged man on the island, who was covered thickly all over with long white hair and wore no other dress. And when they landed, they spoke to him and asked him who he was and what race he belonged to. I am one of the men of Erin, he replied. On a certain day, a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I embarked in a small curragh and put out to sea on a pilgrimage. But I had got only a little way from shore when my curragh became very unsteady, as if it were about to overturn. So I returned to land, and in order to steady my boat, I placed under my feet at the bottom a number of green surface sods cut from one of the grassy fields of my own country, and began my voyage anew. Under the guidance of God, I arrived at this spot, and he fixed the sods in the sea for me so that they formed a little island. Oh, nice. At first I had barely room to stand, but every year from that time to the present, the Lord has added 1 foot to the length and breadth of my island, till in the long lapse of ages it has grown to its present size. And on one day in each year, he has caused a single tree to spring up till the island has become covered with trees. Moreover, I am so old that my body, as you see, has become covered with long white hair, so that I need no other dress. And the birds that ye see on the trees, he continued, these are the souls of my children, and of all my descendants, both men and women, who are sent to this little island to abide with me according as they die in Erin. God has caused a well of ale to spring up for us on this island. Yippee! That sounds like a well of ale, otherwise known as a shebeen. And every morning the angels bring me half a cake, a slice of fish, and a cup of ale from the well. And in the evening the same allowance of food and ale is dealt out to each man and woman of my people. And it is in this manner that we live, and shall continue to live till the end of the world, for we are awaiting here the day of judgment. And you can see, obviously, the firm hand of the Christian, the ecclesiastical scribe in this story, can't you? Mael Dúin and his companions were treated hospitably on the island by the old pilgrim for 3 days and 3 nights, and when they were taking leave of him, they told him that they should all reach their own country. Sorry, he told them that they should all reach their own country except one man. The comments have stopped scrolling on the phone on Facebook. Brendan says, not surprised it was unsteady with the crowd in it. Chapter 21, the island of the big blacksmiths. When they had been for a long time tossed about on the waters, they saw land in the distance. On approaching the shore, they heard the roaring of a great bellows and the thundering sound of smiths' hammers striking a large glowing mass of iron on an anvil, Tom King. And every blow seemed to Mael Dúin as loud as if a dozen men had brought down their sledges all together. When they had come a little nearer, they heard the big voices of the smiths in eager talk. Are they near? Asked one. Hush, silence, says another. Who are they that you say are coming? Inquired a third. Elaine is still here. Good stuff. I'm seeing the comments now. Kathy May Deo's in the house. Sunny, cold day in Newcastle, Washington State. Hope all are well. Good evening, Kathy May. It's great to see you. Little fellows that are rowing towards our shore in a pygmy boat, says the first. When Mael Dúin heard this, he hastily addressed the crew. Put back at once, but do not turn the curragh. Reverse the sweep of your oars, and let her move stern forward, so that those giants may not perceive that we are flying. The crew at once obey, and the boat begins to move away from the shore, stern forward as he had commanded. The first smith again spoke. Are they near enough to the shore? Said he to the man who was watching. They seem to be at rest, answered the other, for I cannot perceive that they are coming closer, and they have not turned their little boat to go back. In a short time, the first smith asks again, What are they doing now? I think, said the watcher, they are flying, for it seems to me that they are now farther off than they were a while ago. At this, the first smith rushed out of the forge, a huge, burly giant, holding in the tongs which he grasped in his right hand a vast mass of iron sparkling and glowing from the furnace. And, running down to the shore with long heavy strides, he flung the red-hot mass with all his might after the curragh. It fell a little short and plunged down just near the prow, causing the whole sea to hiss and boil and heave up around the boat. But they plied their oars so that they quickly got beyond his reach and sailed out into the open ocean. I'm only seeing a few comments on the phone. I'm having to look at the computer to see the Facebook comments. Tom King says, fascinating. Yes, indeed. Chapter 22 is called The Crystal Sea. After a time, and we only have about, what have we got left now on tonight's episode? About 5 pages of reading left. And then we'll retire for another evening and come back maybe tomorrow evening, hopefully, all going well, to finish the story on part 3. After a time, they came to a sea like green crystal. It was so calm and transparent that they could see the sand at the bottom quite clearly, sparkling in the sunlight. And in this sea, they saw neither monsters nor ugly animals, nor rough rocks. Nothing but the clear water and the sunshine and the bright sand. For a whole day, they sailed over it, admiring its splendor and beauty. And thus ends what is possibly the shortest chapter so far, just a little bit shorter than the Isle of the Speaking Birds. Chapter 22 is finished. So we move on to chapter 23, which is called A Lovely Country Beneath the Waves. Did somebody mention hi, Brazil? After leaving this, they entered on another sea, which seemed like a clear, thin cloud. And it was so transparent and appeared so light that they thought at first it would not bear up the weight of the curragh. Looking down, they could see, beneath the clear water, a beautiful country, with many mansions surrounded by groves and woods. In one place was a single tree, and, standing on its branches, they saw an animal fierce and terrible to look upon. Round about the tree was a great herd of oxen grazing, and a man stood near to guard them, armed with shield and spear and sword. But when he looked up and saw the animal on the tree, he turned anon and fled with the utmost speed. Then the monster stretched forth his neck, and, darting his head downward, plunged his fangs into the back of the largest ox of the whole herd, lifted him off the ground into the tree, and swallowed him down in the twinkling of an eye, whereupon the whole herd took to flight. When Mael Dúin and his people saw this, they were seized with great terror, for they feared they should not be able to cross the sea over the monster on account of the extreme mist-like thinness of the water, but after much difficulty and danger, they got across it safely. Chapter 24, An Island Guarded by a Wall of Water. Facebook is buffering, says Kathy May, and that may explain, that might be a problem related to Facebook on this end, because I've noticed that the comments are very stodgy. Desiree says, for once my Facebook is behaving. I don't know, maybe there's a trigger word. I know there's an F word that we don't mention. Maybe it's a trigger word that the Facebook goons are listening out for. And when they hear it, they're like, no, interfere with that. JT says, there's a flood myth from the Levant. A king uses a ring given him from the gods, whereupon he touches it upon the ground every year to grow it bit by bit. Fantastic. Brilliant. Janet has moved to YouTube. JT says, amazing. The serpent on the island is a common motif. So some of you are moving to YouTube because apparently Facebook is a little bit stuttery. I do apologize for that. There isn't really anything I can do about it, unfortunately. When they came to the next island, they observed with astonishment that the sea rose up over it on every side, steep and high, standing, as it were, like a wall all around it. When the people of the island saw the voyagers, they rushed hither and thither, shouting, "There they are, surely." I am serious, but don't call me Shirley. There they come again for another spoil. Then Mael Dúin's people saw great numbers of men and women, all shouting and driving vast herds of horses, cows, and sheep. A woman began to pelt the crew from below with large nuts. She flung them so that they alighted on the waves around the boat, where they remained floating, and the crew gathered great quantities of them and kept them for eating. How good of her. Tricia Cuttrell on Facebook says, "Hello, Anthony. Interesting story. Yes, indeed. It's all a little bit surreal, isn't it?" When they turned to go away, the shouting ceased, and they heard one man calling aloud, "Where are they now?" and another answering him, "They are gone away." From what Mael Dúin saw and heard at this island, it is likely that it had been foretold to the people that their country should someday be spoiled by certain marauders, and that they thought Mael Dúin and his men were the enemies they expected. Thus ends that chapter, and we are on to chapter 25, A Water Arch in the Air. What time are we on? Oh, we're good. We only have 3 pages left. On the next island, they saw a very wonderful thing, namely a great stream of water, which, gushing up out of the strand, rose into the air in the form of a rainbow, till it crossed the whole island and came down on the strand at the other side. They walked under it without getting wet, and they hooked down from it many large salmon. Great quantities of salmon of a very great size fell also out of the water over their heads down onto the ground, so that the whole island smelled of fish, and it became troublesome to gather them on an account of their abundance. From the evening of Sunday till the evening of Monday, the stream never ceased to flow and never changed its place, but remained spanning the island like a solid arch of water. Then the voyagers gathered the largest of the salmon till they had as much as the curragh would hold, after which they sailed out into the great sea. Kieran Cotter says he's enjoying this. Is tomorrow the last part? It is, Kieran, yes. And we are on to chapter 26, The Silver Pillar of the Sea. The next thing, voice crack. The next thing they found after this was an immense silver pillar standing in the sea. It had 8 sides, each of which was the width of an oar stroke of the curragh, so that its whole circumference was 8 oar strokes. It rose out of the sea without any land or earth about it, nothing but the boundless ocean, and they could not see its base deep down in the water, neither were they able to see the top on account of its vast height. A silver net hung from the top down to the very water. Extending far out at one side of the pillar, far out is definitely a phrase we could use for this story, isn't it? And the meshes were so large that the curragh in full sail went through one of them. When they were passing through it, Dúin struck the mesh with the edge of his spear, and with the blow cut a large piece off it. "Do not destroy the net," Mael Dúin said, "for what we see is the work of great men." "What I have done," answered Dúin, "is for the honour of my God, and in order that the story of our adventures may be more readily believed. And I shall lay this silver as an offering on the altar of Armagh if ever I reach Erin." That piece of silver weighed 2 ounces and a half, and it was reckoned afterwards, as it was reckoned afterwards by the people of the Church of Armagh. After this, they heard someone speaking on the top of the pillar in a loud, clear, glad voice, but they knew neither what he said nor in what language he spoke. Chapter 27, An Island Standing on One Pillar. The island they saw after this was named Encos, Encos, and Joyce has a note which means 1 foot, Aon Cush. And it was so called because it was supported by a single pillar in the middle. They rowed all round it, seeking how they might get into it, but could find no landing place. At the foot of the pillar, however, down deep in the water, they saw a door securely closed and locked, and they judged that this was the way into the island. They called aloud to find out if any persons were living there, but they got no reply. So they left it and put out to sea once more. Now, let me just quickly check what's left. Okay, I can read a few more pages, a couple more pages, because I tried to, it's more than 60 pages long, and I tried to divide them into 20-page sections. But I see the last section is 25 pages, so I'll read a couple more pages before we finish, if everyone is up for it. Brendan says it's an amazing adventure. It makes Lord of the Rings look like Fair City. Brilliant. Chapter 28. The Island Queen detains them with her magic thread clue. Thread-CLEW. The next island they reached was very large. On one side rose a lofty, smooth, heath-clad mountain. On all the rest of the island was a grassy plain. Near the seashore stood a great high palace adorned with carvings and precious stones. Sounds like Newgrange. And strongly fortified with a high rampart all around. After landing, they went towards the palace and sat to rest on the bench before the gateway leading through the outer rampart. And, looking in through the open door, they saw a number of beautiful young maidens in the court. After they had sat for some time, a rider appeared at a distance, coming swiftly towards the palace, and on a near approach the travellers perceived that it was a lady, young and beautiful, and richly dressed. She wore a blue, rustling silk headdress, a silver-fringed purple cloak hung from her shoulders. Her gloves were embroidered with gold thread, and her feet were laced becomingly in close-fitting scarlet sandals. One of the maidens came out and held her horse while she dismounted and entered the palace. And soon after she had gone in, another of the maidens came towards Mael Dúin and his companions and said, "You are welcome to this island. Come into the palace. The queen has sent me to invite you and is waiting to receive you." They followed the maiden into the palace, and the queen bade them welcome and received them kindly. Then, leading them into a large hall in which a plentiful dinner was laid out, she bade them sit down and eat. No couches. A dish of choice food and a crystal goblet of wine were placed before Mael Dúin, while a single dish and a single drinking bowl with a triple quantity of meat and drink were laid before each three of his companions. It's interesting, isn't it, the way they divide? That's the second or third time that's happened in the story. He gets a special meal, and there's a triplicate quantity laid before every three of his companions. There's a reason for that. Something to do with remembering numbers, some sort of mnemonic. And having eaten and drunk till they were satisfied, they went to sleep on soft couches till morning. There you go. There's the couches. Next day, the queen addressed Mael Dúin and his companions. "Stay now in this country and do not go a-wandering any longer over the wide ocean from island to island." Yvette Tillema says goddess of the other world. Beginning to look like it, Yvette, isn't it? "Old age or sickness shall never come upon you, but you shall be always as young as you are at present, and you shall live forever a life of ease and pleasure." "Tell us," said Mael Dúin, "how you pass your life here." "That is no hard matter," answered the queen. "Not difficult, that. Ni answer. The good king who formerly ruled over this island was my husband, and these fair young maidens that you see are our children. He died after a long reign, and as he left no son, I now reign, the sole ruler of the island. And every day I go to the great plain to administer justice and to decide causes among my people." And that there is where we will be leaving it for the moment. And I think, let me just briefly check. I can't because it's on the phone. I don't think I have anything particularly pressing tomorrow evening, so I think we might proceed to complete the tale, the voyage of Mael Dúin tomorrow evening, so that you can have all 3 episodes back to back and hopefully remember what has come before a little bit easier. Because otherwise, as I said, if we don't do that, the risk is we'll have Eddie next week and Moncon, and we'll have Imbolc, and it could be weeks away before we get back to talking about Mael Dúin, at which stage everybody will have forgotten and I'll have to go back to the start. So there you go. Any last minute questions? It's a date, says Paula Snow Queen, with couches. Yeah, what about the delicious food? We'll have to rustle up some grub as well, you know. But wouldn't that be nice someday for a gathering of the Tua with a feast, a proper feast to celebrate, you know, to celebrate the end of, you know, what this pandemic has brought to us, which among all of the separation and loneliness and anxiety, it has also brought us together in such a wonderful way. So silver linings, as I always say, remember the silver linings. It's amazing how listening to a story removes all the stress and anxiety, says Brendan. Yvette says, finish this chapter. No. No, funny enough, this is a slightly longer one. I know. How dare I stop in the middle of a chapter, Yvette? What? How dare I? Yeah, it's a longer one. So I don't want to eat too much into tomorrow's time, because we want to have a decent hour tomorrow. Because I know yesterday when we got to the end of the story, people were like, I can't believe that's been an hour already, you know. Roast pork and Bushmills. Yes, Kevin and Janet on YouTube. Joan says, thanks, Anthony. Great scale. Pity I'm doing dry January. I will look, as I always say, a dram or a brew, whichever you prefer. Whatever you have in yourself, that's no problem. We are not trying to encourage people to drink. Definitely not. There are enough problems in the world without, you know. But, and it is, after all, Tuesday, and tomorrow is Wednesday. So, and my friends in the United States, if you're having drams on a Tuesday afternoon, I don't know. I'll bring the bottles of Jameson from Middleton, says Kieran. Yes, that would be brilliant. Well, someday we'll get to meet somewhere and have a proper session, storytelling, feasting, drinking, poetry, song, music, dancing. Brilliant. So thank you for tuning in this evening. Sorry about the hitches with the Facebook feed. I'm not sure why that's happening, but it does sometimes, you know, it can be a little bit hit and miss. Kevin says, I only drink on days of the week with a Y in their name. Adele Perth is saying hello and goodbye, running out the door for work. We'll catch up later. A very good morning to you, Adele. Adele is in, I'm always forgetting whether it's Adelaide or Melbourne. It's one or the other. Adele is in Australia. Good morning, Adele. Enjoy your day at work. A very good Wednesday to you from Tuesday evening here in the Boyne Valley. Yeah, so don't forget, in relation to the questions for Eddie, some of you were putting questions underneath last night's live stream. I just ask you not to do that, just simply because I need to collate the questions. There is a post on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page announcing the episode with Eddie. Please scroll down and find that. It's not too far down the page, and put your question in under that. If you can't do that, or if you can't find it for some reason, then do me a favor and send me an email. Actually, I'll just paste in the link to the Eddie post as a comment on YouTube and on Facebook, so that you can all get to the right post. So put your questions under the, when you see the picture of Eddie, and he's not difficult to miss. He's not easy to miss. He's not difficult to, what am I trying to say? He's very distinguishable because he has a very, very wild look about him, which is something that a lot of people like about him, which is brilliant. So scroll down to the Eddie picture, and when you see Eddie's picture, put your question for Eddie in under there. I will try as much as possible to get to as many of your questions as I can on the evening of the live stream, which will be on Zoom next Monday, an hour later than usual. I just want to reiterate that it will be an hour later than the usual live myths, but you will have to register and you will get a link, and with the Zoom link will probably come a reminder. So yes, if somebody wants to comment on the Eddie post, it'll bring it back to the top of the page. Kevin Riley wisely reminds us, so perhaps someone could do that as well. In the meantime, Coda is getting impatient. I don't know whether he's hungry or whether he needs to go out into the yard, but we shall let him do what he wants. Well, not let him do what he wants. We shall inquire of him momentarily. So I hope you all have a great day, great evening for those in Ireland and Britain and Europe. A great afternoon for those of you in the States, a great morning and a great day to those of you in Australia. And we have a few viewers in Australia today. And I'm almost certain that tomorrow would be the conclusion of the Voyage of Mael Dúin. So please spread the word. Don't forget. And certainly don't arrive and say, I didn't know there was an episode on tonight. No, I'm only joking. You're all very welcome to come along tomorrow evening for the conclusion of the story. In the meantime, stay safe, everybody. Keep using hand sanitizer and using cough and sneeze etiquette into the crook of your arm, social distancing, whatever is required. If you don't make unnecessary journeys, stay within whatever limits that have been set down for you. And don't forget, most importantly of all, if you are going out, wear a mask. There is an extremely virulent strain of COVID-19 in Ireland and Britain at the moment. There were 1,610 deaths in the UK today. There were 93 in Ireland, which is by far our highest single daily total since this thing began. So look, stay safe. We're getting there with vaccines. We know, don't we, that we will see the back of this thing, and we will talk about it hopefully in years to come and say, remember that time when there was a pandemic and we were all locked down. But just for the moment, keep yourselves safe and well. Kevin says 76 in Scotland. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, the way things are, one death is too many. So just do what you can, not just to protect yourselves, but obviously to protect everyone else. In the meantime, have a great evening. Stay safe, stay well, stay hale and hearty, stay in good form. Try and keep your spirits up. Join us again tomorrow evening for Live Irish Myths for the bonus episodes and a little bit of fun and a bit of crack added in. And I will begin in the meantime to perhaps think about formulating some questions for a Mythical Ireland Live Irish Myths quiz, which would be would be a good night. In the meantime, take it handy. What is it I always say? Colosov, Slong of Foal, Ikawa, August, yes, Toga Bugay. Take it easy. Until then, this is Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy saying good night.